Just getting a couple minutes late due to the round table.
Attending the council meeting. So she's. You could say something.
I now call the Snoqualmie City Council meeting to order. All those please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Lassay, can you please lead us?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Unless Joan, please take the roll call.
Here.
Councilmember Ross? Here. Councilmember Holloway?
Here.
Councilmember Mayhew?
Here.
Councilmember Lassay?
Here.
Councilmember Sundwall?
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd?
Here.
Mayor Larson?
I am here. Council can have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for this evening. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Shepherd.
Can we scroll up to what's on the consent agenda? So I'd like to pull off the warrants and AB 19-134 and AB 19-131.
All right, any further discussion, Council? Councilmember Sumwell?
I don't know at what point we do this. We're going to pull AB 19134 all together. Right, Ben?
Okay, so I guess we'll just, at this point, pull that.
When we get
so
to that point in the agenda, I guess I'll pull it. Okay.
Very good. All right, any other comments or suggestions? All right, with those changes so noted, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Back up to the agenda here. So at this time, we're going to have a public hearing regarding the 2019 floodplain management repetitive loss program or plan. Is now open. Wayne, or can one of the staff get the sign-up sheet and see? Thank you, Councilmember Holloway. Or for the sake of time, is there anyone that signed up to speak for the public hearing on the floodplain plan?
Hey, no, we have a late sign.
Okay. He doesn't need to sign, he can just identify himself if he'd like.
He's the only one.
Wayne, did you want to speak at this point? All right, thank you. You know the protocol, right? Go ahead, sir.
The timer.
Okay, anyhow, my concern with this whole flood management deal is, like I brought it up before, I submitted videos, and the point that 320 feet is basically a floodway height on topographic maps, and for some reason, we have areas that are 320 feet on topographic maps that are in the floodway and some are in the floodplain, which does not really make any sense. As a matter of fact, I submitted the survey I did with 3 different GPSs and showed where 320 feet was, and actually I think we were over by the mill site was just about that. And I'm sorry I missed the flood Tuesday because I guess it made national news, but my basement floor didn't even leak, so I guess it wasn't really too bad. I think it got a little blown out of proportion, and people get scared when they're not used to hip boots and wader type floods. I know you are, Mr. Mayor, because you helped clean up for some of them. But anyhow, my big concern is the mapping and the LOMRs that we're putting in to change floodway designations, because when we do get a big one, the perfect storm was in February. If the freezing level would have went to 12,000 feet, we would have seen a flood like this city or this valley has never seen before. And the good Lord was willing, and it didn't happen. And I believe at some point it is going to happen. With just all the rain you folks just had. Fortunately, I was over in Twisp, and the weather over there really wasn't too bad. But anyhow, I did get notification from several people about, are you flooding? And I called here and they said no. So anyhow, thank you. And my concern again is the maps and the LOMRs. I think we better watch what we're doing, because at some point FEMA is going to come out and say, hey, what are you guys doing in the floodway and floodplain, changing designations? Alrighty, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. I should have probably noted at the beginning, just for the record.
Right, I'm sorry. Yep. Wayne Russell, 8438 Meadowbrook Way, Southeast Snoqualmie.
Thank you for reminding me of that too, Wayne. Okay, we got you. The 2019 floodplain management and repetitive loss program or plan it's a plan that's required by the federal government connected with FEMA grants and federal flood insurance that they give us the entire community a rating from like 1 to 5, and based on that rating, it can affect insurance rates. The better the rating, the lower the insurance rates, and so it's incumbent upon us as a city to do a number of strategies that helps mitigate flooding and including a communications plan to the public. So that's what this plan really is about. So if anybody is curious, I would encourage them to read through that plan. But if there's anybody else that didn't have a chance to sign up to speak, anyone else would like to speak to that plan specifically tonight? All right, seeing no one else move forward, public hearing is now closed. So now our next item, which is one of the more fun celebrations we have at this time every year, is to celebrate the graduates of our Citizens Academy this year. I'm always very, very impressed by the folks that sign up for that. We tend to have in the neighborhood of 16 to 20 folks that do that, and I think we had a good number of folks again tonight, or this year. So at this point, what I'm going to do is come forward. I'll call your name for your certificate and ask you to come forward. So receive the certificate and then remain standing up here with me, and then we'll take a photograph and have everyone celebrate at the end of that. So Brandon, if you can get started. Ann Wan. Becky Bastian. It's a two for Becky, come on. Bob Jeans.
Mr. Mayor, I missed too many meetings. My wife and I missed too many meetings, and we don't think we...
You're going to disqualify yourself?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll learn about the city in its entirety.
I learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Colleen Johnson. Oh, you were making up classes too. You can come up if you want, Colleen. Come on up. Daryl Lambert. Daryl? Ron Sano. Ron. Jared Paulson. Jared Paulson. Jen Carter. Jen was also, she's definitely stepping up as a citizen. She was just also appointed to the hospital district, one of the new board members for the hospital district. So another big hand for that. Joe Johnson. Joe's also doing his citizenship duties. He's stepped down to the planning commission. Kayla Burtness. Kayla Burtness. Michael Heika. Muhammad Asif Tassiem. Okay, I know I massacred that. How's this say it?
Muhammad Asif Taslim.
I was pretty good, okay. Nora McCord. Paul Schlichter. It's Slicker. Slicker, yeah. We kept teasing though. Everybody call him Slicker. So. Ron Angering. Ron, how'd I get that? Anjarami. Sally Hinojosa. Trevor Bryant. And William Donaldson. All right, let's everybody bunch up real nice for a photograph here. Make all the families proud.
What's that? Yeah, right.
We're like, which camera, right?
All right, well, why don't you guys stay up there for a second. Kind of what I like to do every year is just throw it open if you want to just, if anybody wants to speak about their experiences of the Citizens Academy, with the highs or lows, surprises.
Meeting new people in the community. Much fun.
Very informative, highly recommended.
Yes.
Huge thank you to all the city staff that took their evenings to teach us everything they knew.
The tours were especially cool. Public Works.
And I learned a lot about the system, the government system, and how local government system works in the US.
Yes, absolutely. It's amazing to me how few people work really hard to make the city work. And so just huge gratitude and thanks for everybody who contributes in some way, even if you're showing up to learn about it. So
That was my takeaway, really, is how small the team is and how much work they get done, how efficient, how effective they are as a local government. Obviously, people can disagree about priorities of projects or what have you, but the team is amazingly effective at what they do. And that's the one takeaway I have is I don't think that message is broad enough, is told broad enough to the community much, or they really want to appreciate it.
Thank you, I know they really appreciate that. And I think more attention needs to go to them. We're good, but thank you for all for doing this. I mean, just that you took all those evenings out of your life. When we first did the Citizens Academy, I think it was kind of a lot of eye rolls from the staff going, oh geez, one more thing to do. But I think they all really love this program because it's the one time they have a chance to tell their story. It's not just always reacting to complaints, because the one time they're often interacting with the public is when something goes wrong. So it really means a lot for folks or citizens like you to come in and take time to hear about what they're doing. It's just great for them, and I know they really, really enjoy that. And I know I genuinely speak on their behalf when I say thank you for the time you take to appreciate what they're doing.
And the gentleman that runs the water reclamation plant, what a great hire.
He's pretty enthusiastic.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine anybody more enthusiastic about their job than that gentleman.
Yeah. Yeah, or even the wastewater plant too. You wouldn't think your sons or daughters would maybe work there, but after going through it and seeing what a high-tech enterprise those are these days, they're pretty cool careers. So, yeah.
They wrapped a bunch of toilet rolls in twine, artistic twine.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right, so thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Carson. All right, with that, I'll invite Ben, are you going to give the presentation or kind of update on the temporary ramp there?
Music was great for the previous presentation, but it's such a long time. It's been such a long time, music. That's why we want to play with this one.
You could have put music on your slideshow, man.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, my name is Ben Yazigi. I'm with the Public Works Department, also with Muni Managed Consultants. I'm going to give you a brief presentation on the status of I-90 SR-18 westbound on-ramp project. Hopefully I can manage this. There you go. So what is this project? This project is actually going to provide a much-needed traffic congestion relief for our citizens that are traveling southbound on Snoqualmie Parkway. Currently, they're stopped at the signal, or they're negotiating conflict points with that signal, the left turns from SR 18 to westbound I-9 ramp, and also the off-ramp coming from westbound. There's a 3 conflicting point. That problem is going to be solved. The other components of this project is that dedicated ramp lane for eastbound SR 18 drivers turning west onto I-90. And the project will also include ramp metering. So what is that? Let's take a look at it on the pictures. I'm trying to get this.
It's the very top button.
There you go. So this is the lane that we're talking about. This will be a new westbound on-ramp lane. Thank you. Thank you. Oops. There you go. Sorry about that. So this traffic island will be built right here to minimize the conflict coming from off-ramp. The folks are trying to make a right turn to Seattle directions. And this left turn coming from SR 18, they will have their own dedicated on-ramp lane. Both of these lanes will be ramp meter right at this right at this point. This would significantly improve the traffic flow and the backup, particularly for AM peak hour traffic for our citizens. Construction already started. WASH.W, Washington State Department of Transportation, anticipates mostly day construction during off-peak hours, some limited nighttime construction. There will be probably a couple ramp closures with detours provided via exit 27. The project estimated completion timeline is mid to late December. We will be coordinating with Washington State Department of Transportation to get the news out if there's any nighttime construction and ramp closures. Project cost is estimated to be $1.2 million. Our participation is capped at $597,429, thanks to our mayor's efforts. Washington State Department of Transportation will pay the balance of the project cost of $1.2 million. Again, with mayors and the council's leadership, we were able to establish some partnerships with other jurisdictions. They're participating in the overall construction cost of this project. Those participants are Snoqualmie tribes, $75,000, City of Maple Valley, $50,000, City of Covington, $50,000, and our contributions, $422,429. That brings it up to $597,429.
What if it goes to $430?
We don't get money back, and we don't pay extra if it goes to $700,000. So we wanted to have that assurance and the cap on this. I want to take a moment to recognize you and of course, the mayor. Projects like this can't happen by itself. It takes leadership, especially this particular project. As you know, that there is a permanent project scheduled to be built at this location in about 2 to 3 years. And having Washington State Department of Transportation agree to build a temporary project within about 3 years of another project is scheduled to come, I have never heard that. Thanks to you, Mr. Mayor, thanks to council for your leadership, but we need to recognize a few other individuals that have helped on this process. Clearly, Senator Mark Mollett was very helpful to us throughout this process. Our partners, Snoqualmie Tribe, City of Maple Valley, City of Covington, and Washington State Department of Transportation, District 1 Administrator. I also want to take the moment to recognize Petite engineers. Political leadership without a technical support behind it doesn't necessarily, well, sometimes don't produce the results. This whole interchange concept was created with their preliminary report and then the later preparing a comprehensive traffic analysis and convincing the Department of Transportation that this project is needed. In addition to that, DOT was being reluctant to build this temporary on-ramp because they were saying there are about the 3 or 4 fish-bearing creeks crossing under this on-ramp. So Petit was able to help us to put the Department of Fisheries, Department of Transportation, all involved parties to solve the technical problems that allow the political body to provide the resources to get the project moving forward. It's a great project. We're so looking forward to completion of this thing. It's on its way. It's very close. Within about hopefully 6 to 7 weeks, we should have this project completed. And just quickly, I can tell you, we're getting about every 3 weeks. Every week's schedule looks ahead 3 weeks. And that schedule shows that within the next 3 weeks, this week, next week, and the following week, contractor mostly doing excavation right next to the ramp. And next week, we're looking for some storm pipe, utilities constructions, and the gabion gasket wall constructions. And then the following week, towards the end of it, is the electrical boring and trenching, etc. That's a quick update. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Ben, I think with the presentation from Mike Cotton, and by the way, I do want to recognize Mike Cotton's the regional coordinator for WSDOT that was instrumental in helping push this along. I think they mentioned at some point the ramp will be closed in the mornings, but I think it was only a total of an estimate of 4 days. I don't know if you recall that exactly, where folks from the south end Snoqualmie will have to be routed down to 27 in order to get out in the morning. But I don't think it lasts more than about 4 days. Does that resonate with you? Or?
We asked contractor to give us a specific schedule on that one, Mr. Mayor. We don't have it yet. Okay. Obviously, DOT recognized our concern. They're going to try to that closure to minimal. And we will update you as soon as we get more information on that.
Yeah, we'll get that out to the public.
Right.
I saw Councilmember Mayhew's hand and Councilmember Shepherd.
Yeah, I wonder, first off, I hope the rest of the council and all the residents realize what a fantastic contribution this is to have the support, the financial support from the Snoqualmie tribe and from the cities of Maple Valley and Covington are significant, but to have their political backing to help support this was absolutely fantastic, and I think we owe them a big thank you. Yes, their folks are getting benefits as well, but we sure are in Snoqualmie, and so I really appreciate this being up there, and I think just couldn't thank them enough. The one question I wanted to ask is on metering. I think there's some confusion out there. You know, I know from seeing the meetings, maybe you could comment on this, but, you know, the city did not want there to be metering, but that is a thing that WSDOT insists on now when they're adding lanes. And I think they're worried about multiple things. One is they now have 2 lanes where they have to alternate vehicles, but they have some other concerns as well. But in any event, the new project's going to have metering. The interim project, therefore, was going to have metering. They were just not going to budge on that. Do you want to comment on that?
I think what they're trying to do, Councilmember Mayhew, is maximize the capacity of the freeway, and that seems to be the trend of the Washington State Department of Transportation and other transportation agencies around the country, metering the ramps that allowing it with some sort of a gap to be able to merge with the traffic increases the capacity of the lane. That's why they are focusing on more and more on metering the ramps.
Councilor Shepherd.
So we have this other project that's called a loop that they're going to be digging up, part of the parkway. How will this project and that project, will they conflict at all?
Depends on the construction timing that we're going to have that discussion. I think it's on our agenda. Are you talking about the water line construction
Correct.
That's coming up for the council?
Yeah.
I can't speak for that one, Councilmember Shepherd, till you make a decision, or while we're discussing it, I'll try to speak to it. I don't know.
Okay.
You're going to allow the evening construction, day construction. If it's day construction, how long it's going to be. We will try to minimize the conflict, but the southbound traffic is our biggest concern is the AM peak. If we can protect the AM peak traffic, I think we're in a generally great shape.
Ben, thank you. Any other questions or comments, council?
Thanks, Ben.
Ben, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to citizens' comments. At this time, we'll provide a time for citizens to comment on any item that is not on the agenda. First, a few ground rules. One, Snoqualmie citizens who are not present here tonight have a right to have their elected representatives perform their duties on behalf of the city in an efficient and orderly manner. Therefore, comments will be limited to 3 minutes each for those who did attend. Second, please wait to be recognized. Come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. 3, direct your comments to the council as a whole and not to individual members. And in order to protect the privacy and rights of employees and protect the members of the public from legal liability, please note that this is not the appropriate venue to make complaints or accusations about an implied or named city employee or agent. Such oral comments will not be allowed but can be submitted in writing to the city clerk. Fourth, please note that this is not a time to ask questions of the council, mayor, or staff, or to engage in debate. The council will simply quietly and respectfully listen to your concerns. Fifth, please respect the decorum of these proceedings, as all due respect will be afforded to you. And last, this is election time, and in compliance with election laws, please refrain from any political campaigning in violation of RCW 42.17A.555. So with that, Anna, we'll start with you since you signed up, but of course... Consent agenda, all action items listed below will be acted in one motion. Action items include minutes for the October 14, 2019 regular city council meeting and the November 12, 2019 city council meeting. And other approvals include Agenda Bill 19130, Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Snoqualmie and the Snoqualmie Indian Tribe regarding funding for the Interstate 90 westbound on-ramp improvement project. Do I have a motion, council?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to present as stated by Councilmember Holloway. Is there any discussion, council? Councilmember Sunwald, you stated you wanted to...
It's been moved off, so we can address it later.
Okay. Oh, I would just as soon not want to risk forgetting it later, so if...
Oh, I won't forget.
Okay.
The only other thing on the agenda.
Okay. All right, any other discussion or comments, council? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. With that, we move on to the, under Reports, Parks and Public Works Committee, Agenda Bill 19129, Noise Ordinance Exemption for Parcel S21B Water Main Looping Project.
Marie Franklin is constructing a water main from the intersection of Snoqualmie Parkway and Southeast Jacoby Street south along Snoqualmie Parkway, then west to parcel S21B to connect to the existing water main serving Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. Due to conflicts with other utilities, the water main must be constructed in the southbound right lane of Snoqualmie Parkway. The city normally restricts lane closures on Snoqualmie Parkway to 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The contractor is requesting the city council approve night work to lessen adverse impacts and public inconvenience caused by daytime lane closures and to complete the project more quickly. We seek an exemption for up to 10 consecutive workdays between October 29th, 2019 and November 22nd, 2019, and work hours of 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. Move to approve the noise exemption for the parcel S21B water main looping project.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 19129 as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? Anna? 2 minutes.
Anna Sotelo, 39075 Southeast Gamma Street. I'm just, sitting in on that meeting. I don't have any skin in the game on it, but I do think that it's something to consider for the council of reaching out to those people and letting them know. And one of the things that Councilmember Holloway said about traffic going over, the 18 traffic in the winter compared to the summer for the 5 p.m., it's really true because I have been working at Echo Lake for the past 6 months, and it blew my mind when it just disappeared after summer. It's just gone. So I think that's something to consider, that traffic really doesn't back up like it does in the summer. From 9 a.m. until 3 p.m., there is no traffic. So much work can get done. But I really think, it sounded like a really innocent thing until council, and I really appreciated Councilmember Lissay's thoughtful comments during that meeting of the citizens. And, I guess if I had to get up at a job every single day and I heard that kind of noise, it would really be bothersome. But then again, some people, I don't know. But again, I think that they should be reached out to. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this? Anyone from the public? All right, with that, we'll go back to council discussions. I'll turn it to the chair of the committee and then ask maybe staff to come up and kind of brief on the details for the other council members, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, so we had a fairly extensive conversation about this at our committee meeting on Tuesday. And in a nutshell, this is Murray Franklin, who is under the obligation to finish out this water loop. It's at no cost to the city. This is at their cost. And as coherent as their presentation was, as that meeting went on, and as I thought about it in the days since, we had asked the city to come back with, or we'd asked the contractor to come back with a daytime proposal and a quieter nighttime proposal. But as I've thought about it more, one of the things that we're responsible to do as a council is not just go off the majority, but to protect the minority in cases like this. And there's 20 plus homes with no natural sound barriers associated with this. I don't need to go knock on their door to see if they're okay with concrete sawing and jackhammering and concrete digging up between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. I don't need to ask anybody if they're okay with that, because no one is. This does not benefit the city in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't add cost to the city. All it does is add noise to an otherwise very quiet neighborhood. And so while I'm certainly willing to hear what the two proposals might have been, because that's kind of how we left the meeting, I can't imagine a scenario in which I would approve amending the noise ordinance in this particular case.
I guess I was asking for someone just to, or Ben, if you could just come up and not speak to any of the, not advocate for one proposal or the other, just to describe the project and the problem or the challenge that led to our request, just so everybody, anybody in the public, and then for the record. Now, I'm not sure which document you want to open up there. The plan set's a little dated.
Yeah. If you have a visual, we can describe that better, Mr. Mayor. There you go. There you go. The project consists of building a new 8-inch water main, and it's between the two key intersections that we got there, as you can see out there. This would benefit us two ways.
Can someone give Ben the laser pointer?
Jason, you want to help on that one? Jason was actually intimately involved in this.
Maybe we could use the hand microphone too.
Yeah.
You want to talk or?
Go ahead.
You guys have the hand mic?
Oh, no, I'll make this work.
There you go.
So what we're looking at, and you
It always hurts to watch Jason try to talk into the mic.
I'll just squat down here. So
get the man a chair.
Ben can see over me there. So the intersection with Jacobia and Snoqualmie Parkway is up here, and so the project starts there and comes down the parkway here, and this vacant area is parcel S21B next to the hospital. So the water line comes down here, across here, and connects roughly right here at that little roundabout. What we've learned over
What's
time.
the purpose of a loop?
So in general, so right now we have a single water line coming down, and you can actually see it in this photo coming down here to connect the hospital. We like to have water line looping for redundancy, fire flow being the two major reasons. So right now the hospital's at the end of a dead-end water line, which is not an ideal situation, certainly for a hospital, which is why Murray Franklin is under an agreement with the city to construct it. So they need to bring the loop down the parkway and connect it in, then we'd have a full loop system through this area. What we've learned, the original proposal was they were to bring it down the trail next to the parkway and then probably in the shoulder of the parkway. We've since learned that due to a variety of utility conflicts, that's not possible. The agenda bill is written to say they would put it in the right lane of the parkway. Apparently that's also not possible. There's additional utilities in the right lane of the parkway, mostly starting right about here where the trail bends off into the trees here. And so the utilities all shift over a little bit. So instead of the right lane, they'd be putting in the left lane of the parkway, coming down. The issue that with daytime work is 9 to 3 is a very short window. They need roughly 30 to 60 minutes to set up and tear down. So what we're looking at is a daytime work window of 4 to 5 hours. So that was the impetus behind the contractor's request in the first place. The committee's discussion last week was focused a lot on, well, you know, what kind of noise are we looking at? We're looking at saw cutting, so cutting the pavement, a little bit of jackhammering of pavement. Then, of course, they'd be excavating. They'd be digging a big, deep trench under the parkway in the area where they cut the pavement. The saw cutting is the noisiest work that's occurring here, by far. The excavation is certainly not quiet by any stretch of the means. They have, you know, machinery running. They're going to have backup alarms, and certainly while they can use those, I think they call them more broad spectrum alarms, not the beep, 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 but kind of the little grinding, buzzy sound. They're not as maybe annoying, but they're still present. And I think there's roughly a dozen homes. You can see there's a stormwater pond here. These approximately dozen homes are certainly the most affected because they, as Councilmember Sunwall said, they don't have any sound barrier at all. The homes that are further up north here towards Jacobia have some trees in the way, and then as you bend around over here, they're shielded a little by the other houses. So, but these homes here on Elm Avenue, I heard the joke last week when I listened to the tape, would be the most affected.
but those homes are also tiered, so the ones behind overlook the ones in front, and I think you've got two separate tiers. So all three of those house rows are going to have line of sight to the construction and also direct sound to them.
Yeah, there's a little bit of, attenuating effect by just the distance and being shielded at least partly by the homes, but certainly you're right. All these homes are going to hear it if there's night work. Now, they're certainly going to hear it during the day. Hopefully, they're not all at home during the day. Certainly, I think some people would be home during the day, and so they're going to hear it anyway. Speaking to traffic issues, we're all aware of how backed up this can get coming south on Snoqualmie Parkway. And that's the impetus behind why city staff restricts lane closures to 9 to 3. The noise ordinance, which you see as part of the agenda bill, and we pasted the entire that entire section of the code in, actually restricts work hours from 7 a.m. until sometime in the evening. So strictly speaking, the work hours are much longer, but we don't allow that on the parkway. And this, it's not just work on the parkway, it's also trucking, for example. So the construction projects in the business park, as an example, we don't allow them to truck on the parkway at certain times of the day because we don't want that significant traffic impact. So.
Don't go yet. One more thing, excellent presentation, by the way, Jason. Regardless what hours that you authorize this contractor to work, when the contractor is done, he will be required to overlay 2 lanes of the roadway on about 1,617 linear foot of Snoqualmie Parkway. As you know, that this is in one of our infrastructure improvements plan that we've been struggling to get some of the funding put together on this one. So this will be additional 1,600 linear foot of overlay on one direction in both lanes. Originally, when they were thinking about building the water line outside lane, that we could only ask them to overlay the outside lane. Now they're moving to the inside lane. For fire hydrants, they have to cut the entire roadway. That's why they will be required to do the overlay of the entire section.
And Jason or Ben, could you speak to the choices that the community or the council has on the length of one option versus the other? So
yeah,
obviously there's an impact to some of the houses in the evening hours, but at the same time, it's a much shorter impact where there's noise impacting those neighborhoods, period, versus.
Sure. So the contractor at the Parks and Public Works Committee meeting clarified that they're looking at, with night work, they're looking at 2 weeks, 10 working days. And there might be a little bit on either end where they wouldn't be working at nights, some of the pickup tear down things, but the heavy construction, the actual excavation, water line installation is about 2 weeks. If they work solely during the daytime in the 9 to 3 window, it would take about 4 weeks, so about double the time. The committee asked for a couple additional options. One was if you want to call it an extended daytime closure. And so instead of 9 to 3, we're looking at maybe another hour or 2 during the daytime. So for example, 9 to 4, or maybe 8 to 3.
Yeah, 8:30 to 3:30.
There's some options that, depending on what the council could think is an appropriate time there. And then there's a question about could they do some of the much noisier work, specifically the saw cutting during the day, and then the excavation work maybe at night. The contractor isn't here to answer that question, unfortunately. So certainly we can say, we can require them to do that, and that would have a positive impact on the noise to the neighborhood. But what exactly that effect would be, I couldn't say, and what the impact on schedule would be is probably fairly minimal.
So Jason, one of the other ideas that was raised at the committee meeting, I think by Councilmember Lassay, was that perhaps, like we've done with the soapbox derby before, dedicate since there's few cars coming up the parkway in the morning and a lot of congestion going down, could we convert one of the uphill lanes to a downhill lane to alleviate that, so they could start, 6, 7 in the morning if they wanted to, and still have those lanes, 2 lanes going down the hill in the morning.
So it's definitely possible to have 1 lane each direction on, if you will, the east side of the parkway here. So because right now you have 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south. The tricky part with trying to get 3 lanes is you have a planted median running here from about 96th up to Jacobia. And the pinch point is just south of Jacobia where you have the configuration is there's a dedicated left turn lane at Jacobia followed by the left through lane and the right through lane. And then of course you have a shoulder. When that left turn lane goes away, now you have just 2 lanes plus the shoulder. That's the really tight part. And so whether you could safely fit 3 lanes through there is not a question we have an answer to right now because the contractor's not here. Elsewhere on the parkway, once you get past the planted median, you have a center turn lane and a shoulder, so there's enough space there probably to provide it. Now, you're going to have issues with traffic control because there's, of course, left turns. There's people who need to turn into 96 and out of 96, both right and left turns. And you have the same issue down here at 99th. Now, hopefully the traffic control would end right about here because the water line physically, you've probably all seen the big cut through the hillside right where this red star is. That's where the water line goes in here and off the parkway. So you could probably get the lanes back to normal before you get to 99th, but there would still be traffic control impacts and also at Jacobia and the parkway because they need to connect the water line in the middle of the intersection.
So the short answer is it's not very feasible.
The answer is it's certainly possible to do something, but what exactly is a little unclear, and the traffic control alone might make it not very workable.
Councilmember Lissay. Councilmember. I'll go to Lissay, Holloway, Ross, and then Shepherd.
I want to thank the staff for putting the time into kind of analyzing this. It's a difficult thing because we're being asked to make pretty much a major exception to one of our rules, which is a noise ordinance. And noise ordinances are difficult to agree to changes to a noise ordinance are difficult to agree to because it has such an impact to the community. Councilmember Sunwell made some really good points, and I don't want to repeat those because I believe in each and every single one that he said. So upon review of the staff report and the analysis, I'm inclined to vote against this agenda bill, to not approve any exceptions and to have the contractor work under the hours that we normally would have work be done.
Councilmember Holloway?
Well, contrary to what Councilmember Lissay says, I'm kind of disappointed. Staff and contractor were asked to go look at options of moving stuff to daytime and how that could limit the nighttime. I don't have options here. I have one option, and then I have do whatever. And anytime you give a politician do whatever, not a good idea, and I'm not in road construction. So I don't know what is appropriate for whatever. So the ask was not answered. Based on that, my tendency would have vote this back to, we'll do it through normal operations, we'll do it 9 to 3 during the day. Guys, I need you to tell us what is the appropriate technical solutions that are within the realm of reality. And that wasn't done here. Okay.
Councilmember Ross. Or Ben, did you want to respond to that?
And I apologize if you have not met your expectation, the Mayor Pro Tem, so we'll try better next time.
You can always tell me my expectations are not right, but I believe that was the ask coming out of committee.
I think the lengthy answer about the uphill lane that Jason just gave did indicate that they had gone back and looked at it at some length.
Yeah,
We didn't hear the details about maybe adding a half hour on the or the morning and a half hour in the evening. I guess I'd still like to hear about some of that too. But.
We recognize the challenges that you're struggling with. That is, we were responding to the committee's request, and I apologize if you not met that request, that we were asked to give some options for the during daytime closures for different time slots. That's what we presented. In terms of the staff's technical recommendation, I'm going to ask that since Rami Kutsal is reviewing this project from Pratit, perhaps he can respond to that better than I can. He's been involved with this project from the day first on the review part of it. Rami, you want to respond to what would be the engineer's recommendation in terms of the daytime closure and evening closures?
But the two options I have on the table are 20 days, 9 to 3, or 10 days, 7 to 6. I have no other options on the table. I have a lot of possibilities, but I don't have any options lined out that for my specific consideration here.
Okay.
But,
Well, does he have options?
come on, Rami, tell me I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
No, he wanted to
I
do
knew he
that.
wanted to do it, he couldn't resist.
You knew he-
Thank you, Rami.
You're welcome. And the reason we didn't come up with more alternatives is because the design has changed recently. We don't have a new proposal for the new design. The contractor and developer is waiting for our answer on the inside lane relocation of the water line. We changed the alignment twice, and this is the third iteration that we are going through right now. They don't have plans yet, and that's how we will be able to get 2 lanes, 1,600 feet overlaid, grind and overlay parkway. We'll get 1,600 feet of new parkway. And the person I have been trying to get a hold of to provide us more information was unfortunately laid off last Friday.
That's the contractor spoke at the
Yeah.
committee meeting.
Because you didn't give them the option to. So the idea, we actually exercised our technical options on moving the lane to the incoming lane, northbound parkway, because of the challenges that Jason described. It will create too many conflict points. The left turn onto Jacobia and trying to get people coming on Parkway to go to I-90 or 18 will create a really dangerous conflict point here. It will actually make the AM peak is the morning rush hour traffic extremely challenging here. It will actually create a bigger problem here at this intersection of Jacobia and Parkway, again with 96 and Parkway too. So that option was out because of the dangers that we may face. The other option that we have actually talked about today with staff is to let them start on the time after the rush hour traffic is gone in AM at 9 a.m., but extend the work hours until the noise ordinance allows 8 p.m., I believe, during the day, and we can tell them to work on Saturdays, which is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., so they can work extended hours during the day, but no night work, if that's what we choose to do.
Councilmember Ross and Councilmember Shepherd?
No.
And Councilmember Summer.
So first of all, I'm liking that second alternative that you're talking about. I don't agree with shutting it down at night, right? And I don't think we should waive the noise ordinance. It's not very fair to anyone that lives there. But you're also talking about 2 lanes that you're going to have to grind and overlay. And so are there going to be plates on both of the lanes all the way from where, Jacobia? or-
Jacobia to almost 99th. No, they will only have plates on the inside lane they are operating. When the traffic is open, then they will have all the trenches covered appropriately, either trench backfill and cold mix asphalt or steel plates. They are going to choose cold mix asphalt is what they are talking about. The steel plates can be a little dangerous unless they have to cover a hole that they have to be working immediately after.
Yeah, what you'd see is they would be moving down the parkway, so it wouldn't be the entire length all at once. It would be a section here, they'd finish it, move down, move down.
Okay.
Like a
And-
30 or 50-foot section where they're working at that time, it would be covered with plates.
Right. And we also need to consider the traffic and the times of the traffic as well. And so I'm wondering if there could be more of an intermittent where you're 9 to 3 and then you wait, and then you're maybe 6 till 8 or whatever, or till 10.
Take a break in between.
Right.
Make
You
shift
still have a
change
lot
for
of
them.
traffic heading south.
We can
time.
require all those options if you don't allow them to work any hours beyond what's allowed on the currently approved plans, which they have to follow. That's an option. We can say from 3 to 6, but I don't know if they'll be setting up a game from 6 to 8.
Well, there's traffic studies, so you can figure out what's the best time.
We can also
adjust the work hours on a day-to-day basis, depending on the traffic load, because it's not consistently bad in PM.
One of the issues with taking a break is essentially a contractor mobilization issue. They're going to get all their guys there to start. If they have to stop, they have to send them all home, or whatever. And so then to get them remobilized later is actually very difficult. So while we could certainly present them the option, they're probably not going to take it. And you'll recall I mentioned earlier that there is some setup and tear down time. So a 2-hour window doesn't work for them. It takes them too long to set up traffic control and tear it down. So you need realistically, a 5 or 6 hour window to actually accomplish any construction. So at that point, if you want to say 9 to 3 and then, 6:30 till 11 p.m., now you're into a noise ordinance exemption from the council at that point, which you could certainly do. I'm just saying that's kind of the challenge with the split, is creating big enough windows to make it worth their while, and they might not want to do it anyway.
But at the end, they are required to install this water main looping as part of the agreement, so they have to do whatever they have to do if you don't want to change anything.
Councilmember Shepherd and Councilmember Summel.
Okay, so a couple of things. How does this impact the other project that's coming for the I-90 on-ramp?
It doesn't have any direct impact on that project because that project's ramp closure and then any impact to Parkway starts at 10:30 a.m.
Okay, so
we made sure that they have no impact. It's on DOT's contract that they cannot have any impact on the Parkway.
Okay, so this project will not impact what WSDOT's doing?
No.
At all?
It won't.
Okay, and then also, this is a temporary asphalt covering when they do it originally, and then they're going to have to come back later and put the final asphalt on when it's in springtime, I guess.
We can do it earlier if the Public Works and then DOT allows them to do it. The reason for that limitation on paving is strictly weather, rain and temperature, 45 degrees and rising ground temperature to place asphalt. But we have a lot of good days in December as well. For grind and overlay on the 1,600 feet, it probably will take them 3 days total.
Is there any possibility that there would be a conflict? There's no absolute possibility between this project and WSDOT's on-ramp?
I can say absolute.
If there is, who would end up paying the tab if there's an additional cost?
None of these costs will be borne by the city at all, neither DOT's project nor this project. This project is a developer obligation.
So if there's a delay, there's no impact to the city?
No impact, zero.
We're legally protected on both projects.
Yeah, zero fiscal impact.
There's a provision in the city's contract with WSDOT that protects the city against claims for delay, interference, extra work, and the like. That it was difficult to negotiate, but they agreed to that.
Yeah, I was
provision.
looking at that paragraph, and it looks like it kind of goes both ways. It protects us, but then it doesn't protect us, so it was a little confusing.
Councilmember Summel.
So we've spent a fair amount of time in a lot of mental gymnastics trying to make it easier for a developer to do their job. And while I think where we can make that work, great, but we're not going to keep people up at night. Make them work within the hours that we have scheduled, and it'll get done. It'll get done when it gets done. And they didn't bother to show up with another proposal, so I think they'll figure it out. And, I mean, we can spend another half hour talking about it, but I'm not really interested in making it, switching lanes over and doing all these kinds of gymnastic exercises so that we can make it easier for the developer to finish the project that they need to do. So,
I guess in defense of the staff's motives, remind Councilmember Sunwell that the issue is there's more than the 20 or so houses that are being impacted. It's several hundred cars.
Not really, because the lane being involved.
If I could finish, there will be some congestion or impacts there on a project that could either last 4 weeks or 2 weeks. So we're trying to think of strategies that could maybe mitigate the length of the total impact.
This affects people not going west on I-90. It's the left lane that will be impacted. So those who go straight in the morning or go left toward North Bend, that lane shrinkage will bring discomfort to them. The right lane will remain
That's what I'm
open the whole
speaking about,
time.
yeah.
Right? And so we're talking about, I'm going to guess 80% of the traffic that leaves the ridge in the morning, it's probably, that's a low guess, I bet, heading westbound will not be impacted by this. It's the people who have to go straight or head to eastbound to North Bend that will have to temporarily get into one same lane, and then before the hospital, get back into their lane that takes them under the overpass.
Which will create that much more congestion for everybody, but again, I'm not inclined to parse it. Councilmember Holloway?
Well, I guess the only point of clarification, these projects are geographically separated.
Right.
There shouldn't be a construction conflict of any sort as a result of being geographically separated. There may be a traffic impact that both contribute to, but that's, I wanted clarification on the word impact. Construction-wise, they should be totally separate and non-impacting of each other. And other than that, I agree with Sean. We've discussed this enough.
Councilmember Mayhew?
Not quite enough.
Not quite enough.
I didn't call the question. Go ahead.
So I think I finally heard what I've been waiting to hear, although not exactly. The question that's been in my mind throughout this whole conversation is why. I simply don't understand nothing in the, I just can't figure out why we're even talking about this. So it seems like we have a municipal code that's been in place for plenty, it's not a new code. It says when they can do construction. Why are they asking for something other than that? I just don't understand the why here. I understand that they're asking for something at night, which seems like a lot of impact on a few people that seems very unfair to them, and I don't understand why we would do that. Then there's some kind of confusion about what other options there are. I've heard a lot of things discussed, but similar to Council Member Holloway, what is the option we're being asked to, with this being put in front of it? So I don't really know. I understood all the discussion, but I didn't know what exactly was being proposed. So where I'm at is, I don't understand why we do this. I don't even understand what we would do other than a nighttime thing, which doesn't seem like a good idea to me. So that's where I'm at.
The reason we brought this up, entertained the contractor's question, is staff is not advocating to change it, to make the entire rich citizens driving AM to deal with this construction shorter period of time. Only 2 weeks of longer or nighttime work as opposed to 4 or 5 or 6 weeks of total construction time.
Can I just, is it going to be different than the impact we've been seeing? Because we've all, is it somehow more intense or
Well,
different than what we've already been experiencing?
I hope what Councilmember Sunwall just described is true, that there's really no difference in impact during the morning commute or even that daytime. But if that's not the case, I think you can imagine that my administration or me would have been roundly criticized if we just went forward with that project with no conversation about this whatsoever, and then there were problems with that sort of daytime construction. And the question was, why weren't we presented options where maybe we could have done it at night or whatever? So to Rami's point, we're not advocating for one or the other. We're simply wanting to present. There's many times the council will be presented with something that's kind of a pick your poison option. There's negatives to two options, and some have less negatives than another. Maybe one, as Councilmember Sunwall suggests, little to no negatives. And again, one of them, part of my motivation is I think there'd be a lot of people in the community interested in any project like that that affects the roads to decrease the amount of time that project's going on. So it's, do you want more interruption for a short period of time or a little less interruption for a long period of time? I'm not sure that I was comfortable making that decision on the council's behalf and wanted to have that conversation.
Well, that sounds great. My thought would be, I think we've got a question tonight about a nighttime construction and noise ordinance waiver. So my sense is we're ready to vote on that. My sense is that there are other possibilities that were discussed tonight that the council might be amenable to, but they need to come to us, I think, in the form of here's a proposal or here's 3 specific proposals that we could then say yes or no to. But in the meantime, my sense is I think we're ready to vote on tonight's issue.
Well, I guess where I'm a little confused is the council's also quite accustomed to making amendments to a motion before you. So one of the amendments could be, we don't want to do nighttime, but we're going to do the daytime, but to try and shorten it, we'll do, there's nothing in our rules that says projects have to start after 9 o'clock and end at 3.
We require it to.
You know, that's not the noise ordinance. What's that?
We require it to
That's a
relieve
requirement we
the
have.
construction.
Not for all road projects. That's specific to this location because of the congestion at the interchange. The noise ordinance doesn't start at 9 and end at 3 p.m.
It's
So that-
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So what I'm saying is there isn't a rule that they're following that came up with 9 to 3. So the question I would pose to Rami or the staff is, do we know enough about the traffic congestion to know that 9 o'clock is the point where in other words, could we do 8:30 to 3:30, give these guys another hour of work to help shorten this thing and not get into a lot of congestion? Does it clear up generally by 8:30-ish? Or not start congesting in the evening by 3:30, or you're playing it safe 9? So I'm curious why 9
We are
to 3.
playing it safe.
Okay.
Because that's when 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. is our works rule on contractors to minimize the impact to AM peak traffic.
So I'm just going to, point of order. We are here to discuss whether we're going to amend the noise ordinance. We are not here to talk about whether we are going to start at 9 or 10 or 7 in the morning. We are here to approve an exemption to the noise ordinance. And everything I've heard out of everybody here is that we are not going to do that. So if 2 weeks from now, someone wants to come up with a proposal of, hey, let's amend the rule about the parkway specifically, great, do that. But we're here tonight to approve or disapprove of an exemption to the noise ordinance, and unless I have heard incorrectly, I don't hear anybody supporting that. So I move to call the question.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
That's just for calling the question.
Right, now back to the main motion.
Yeah, thank you. On the main motion, all those in favor?
Aye. Wait a second.
Okay, that's one. All those opposed?
Nay. Nay. Be clear.
All right. Back to the consent agenda items that were pulled down.
So,
Agenda Bill 19131, Resolution 1524, accepting completion of the Public Works contract with Well West Construction for the Southeast Northern Street Low Impact Development Project.
So due to some additional negotiations we are having with the vendor, we would like to pull this from the agenda and send it back to committee.
The other.
Sure.
No, you're not on
You
the,
have the wrong one.
134.
131.
This is 131.
Do I have another one? Oh, that's
you
embarrassing.
you were going to pull.
This was
one-
on consent.
You were going to pull 134. Yeah, that was taken off of consent, so I'm now bringing Agenda Bill 131 to, under Public Works Committee.
This is an exception of a project, right? Okay. On May 8th, 2017, City Council awarded the Public Works contract to Well West Construction the amount of $835,810.48 for the construction of Southeast Northern Street Lid Project. Construction of the Southeast Northern Street Lid Project is fully complete. Move to approve Resolution 1524, accepting completion of a Public Works contract with Well West Construction for the Southeast Northern Street Lid Project as fully complete, subject to applicable warranties, and directs staff to send in for required labor and industries and revenue releases.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Agenda Bill 19131 as stated by Councilmember Sunwell. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item prior to action? All right, seeing no one move forward, any discussion, Council? Councilmember Shepherd.
Okay, so the reason I pulled this off the consent agenda is because it has to do with transmission line, I think. And it wasn't described in the agenda bill, but basically it has to do with asphalt paving, pervious concrete sidewalks, bioretention facilities, storm drainage improvements, water main improvements. So according to our water plan, we're supposed to have construction completion report for distribution main projects, and I was wondering if we have that for this project. It's supposed to be stamped by a professional engineer with their seal.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, you are correct for new water main that is supposed to be done. I don't have it in front of me, but I will double check and can get back.
Okay.
But everything else has been complete for some time.
I know we've had problems in the past with not having those certificates of completion, and I'd just like to see them before I vote on them.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, any other, Councilmember Mayhew?
Would there be any reason why this couldn't be postponed or sent back to committee for 2 weeks
Project's
so
been done
that
for
that could be
quite some time,
addressed?
so, go ahead, Bo.
Well, Mr. Coleman can speak to that. This doesn't have anything. 2 points. One, the requirement of Councilmember Shepherd, to which Councilmember Shepherd referred, applies to distribution mains, which doesn't mean every water main. Two, the purpose of accepting a project is complete is that it starts the limitations period running during which an unpaid sub or person who provided materials on the project could make a claim. It doesn't have, if there is an outstanding completion of construction certificate, it wouldn't be affected by approving the acceptance of the project or not. The two are just unrelated. And this is a housekeeping item to release the final retainage payment to the contractor. It doesn't have to do with our certificate, if one is due.
Councilmember Ross.
And I'd like to say kudos to Public Works because it was under budget. So nice job.
Yeah, it's a beautiful project. Yeah. That's the one in Colleen's neighborhood, right? Northern Street?
I believe so, yeah.
Councilmember Shepherd, Councilmember Lissay.
So this is over $800,000, and I feel that I've called the DOH about this, and they said that it would be appropriate for us to have that certificate of completion for this project. And the benefit of having it is just to know that the work that you've paid for is definitely been done correctly. And and I think that we release some retainage when we approve that it's been completed. I don't know if we have retainage on this, 5%.
You talked to the DOH attorneys?
I'm sorry?
You talked to the DOH attorneys?
No, I talked to the person who talks to Todd Saxberg.
Okay. Councilmember Lissay.
Brian, just real quick, is there any reason to believe we would not receive a certificate of completion for this project?
I'm sorry, say that more.
Is there any reason to believe we would not receive a certificate of completion for this project?
No.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, council? Councilmember Mayhew.
I just have a question I was hoping finance people might know. So in the budget section of the staff report, we talk about the fact that this is part of the approved CIP. We talk about the fact that we have adequate fund balance, but what we don't mention, and we mention that it's under budget, as Councilmember Ross pointed out, fantastic work. But what we don't mention, which I would like to know the answer to, is are we within our appropriation? So maybe we get, a verbal answer is good, but it just, I expected to see that in the report.
Councilmember Mayhew, this project was completed in November 2017, so 3 years ago. We're just simply doing the housekeeping here.
It was within the appropriations in 2017.
So this is housekeeping items so that we can close the project and then release the contractor's retainage. We've been sitting on it uncomfortably a longer period of time. We need to get this thing done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lissay.
That wasn't an answer to the council member's question. I have to ask, was this project within the appropriation in 2017?
Yes. I'm talking to the finance director, yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mayhew.
Since that's an already audited year and there wasn't any issue with the audit, I inferred from the answer that that it was within the appropriation. Yeah, thanks.
Since this is a rather old project, just an FOI, Brian, you recall offhand how much of this project was paid for from grants, the LAD grant? Significant amount, as I recall.
I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay, it's not relevant. Go ahead. Councilmember Shepherd.
So this was finished in 2017? Was it the end of 2017 or the?
Correct.
Okay. I know we've had some really old refunds of deposits for contractors. How many of these kind of retainage fees do we have backlogged to refund?
I can't state the exact number. I know there are a few, but the exact amount I would have to talk to finance about.
Okay.
Councilmember Mayhew.
So I just want to be clear on this. So as far as the concern with getting the completion
certificate of completion,
you're quite clear, City Attorney, that whether we approve this or not tonight would not change our ability to get that completion certificate?
It's not a certificate that we receive, it's one that our engineers prepare and sign and stamp. It's not even anything that we have to apply for.
It's an internal procedure that we may or may not have completed, but if we have not completed, we would simply be able to do that.
Correct.
Regardless of whether we had done, whether we do tonight's proposed action?
Correct.
Thank you.
And we may or may not be required to have been required to have done it for the.
May not be required at all. I see.
Of this size, right.
Thank you.
Councilor Ross.
So someone asked about grants. So it is in the agenda bill, and there's about $286,500 is funded by grants. The remainder would have been funded by the city.
And the staff did a great job designing this project to secure that grant by making the bioswale. In other words, putting those sustainability aspects into the project. Nicole worked on that to secure that grant. Otherwise, it would have been a full cost to the city of some $800,000 to do it in a more conventional fashion. So just kudos to her for that. All right, any further discussion, council? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. Now we can move to Agenda Bill 19134 from the consent agenda. Fourth Amendment to the Comprehensive Garbage, Recyclables, and Recompostable Collection Agreement.
Yeah, so due to ongoing negotiations on this topic of bear cans, we're going to postpone this and take it back to committee. Hopefully we'll have it next time or the time after that. So
Make a motion.
Wait,
So I'll make a motion to send this back to committee.
Second.
Point of order.
All right, motion at point of order. Go ahead, Councilmember Shepherd.
So I know you're going to go take it back and you're going to negotiate something, but I do want to be sure that we take into consideration, there is a group out there called Bear Smart, and they have been.
Point of order? This is not a point of order.
It's not a point of order. It's sustained. All right, there was a motion and a second to remove this and send it back to committee. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion's carried. Okay, back down to any other reports for the Parks and Public Works Committee?
Not at this time.
Community Development Committee, any reports?
No.
Finance Administration Committee reports?
Move to approve the claims and warrants as presented in the agenda?
Oh, thank you.
Second.
Yep. All right, motion and a second is stated by Councilmember Holloway. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak to the warrants? Seeing no one move forward, Councilmember Shepherd.
Okay, so this week I wasn't able to completely review the warrants. I started to, but the warrants were taken away because they did not want me to have a laptop or a cell phone in the room while I reviewed the warrants. So after F&A meeting, we did come to, I guess, a compromise that we're going to try working out. But so again, you know, it's just very difficult to get answers on questions around warrants, and this just makes it a little more difficult to get the job done.
As the council knows, there is information in the warrants, in the city's bills and so forth on payroll and other HIPAA and other protected information that we are required to protect by law. It cannot be, it's private information. So although a council member might review that, it can't be available to the public. We've seen some of those documents that are protected surface in the public on Facebook posts that have been distributed. So we're looking into and investigating that right now. And it's also council policies not to allow those to take, any kind of cameras into when reviewing warrants. So that's part of it. We're simply enforcing that, and for good reason at this point. Is there any further discussion on the warrants? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. Any further report for the F&A committee?
No further report.
Public Safety Committee report.
No report.
Are there any, nothing, I think that was, I don't think there's any items for committee of the whole.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know where to ask this question. I had a citizen ask me about transportation. Maybe I can just take it offline with staff, but I'm not sure who would be the appropriate person to talk about public transportation.
That's a good one. Nicole is the only one that's really kind of taken it as a staff with some Metro items, but.
That's what it's about. It's regarding Metro, so I'll take it up with Nicole.
Yeah, okay. Or if you do an email, CC me in, because I'm kind of the only person interacting with the Metro and the King County too on those issues as well.
Okay,
So
thank you.
thank you, Councilmember Lissay. Councilmember Mayhew.
Would now be an appropriate time to ask a question regarding a staff?
As long as there's no other items for the committee of the whole, and again,
Yeah, I was trying to talk
there's
about
no,
staff.
so this is a good, perfect time for that.
So just a follow-up question. I heard in citizen comment a question about whether Park Street might have been covered by water during the recent high water event. And so my question is, was it flooded? Was it covered with water?
Brian?
Hi, Brian Kraus, Operations Manager. What segment?
The segment in the vicinity of the high school.
No, it was not. There was portions of it near the park, our park, Centennial, but not near the high school.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for or from the staff at this point? Any other reports from the staff? Bob? Brian, while you were standing up, did you have any other reports at this time? All right. Or Ben, I'm sorry, I should have tossed it to you. Okay. Captain? All right. Chief?
Ben got demoted.
Who else is back here? Robert, anything? Deborah? All right. With that, and there, Councilor Mayhew?
Just a question for Police Captain is, or really a comment. I've heard from a number of citizens over the last week. I know it's this time of year with school having started again, but concerns around speeders in the vicinity of bus stops. And I know that you guys are aware of that issue and the seasonality of it, but just wanted to pass on to you and maybe seek any comment on that issue.
Absolutely. We're constantly working the school zones with the amount of officers that are on duty at the time, with the, not being at calls for service and things like that. So it's always constantly on our mind.
All right, so yeah, just especially around the bus stop pickup points, which are dispersed around the city, there seems to be concerns, and I think it's, just because we've started the school year again, and yeah, so just sharing that with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no further announcements or anything else, at this time, we're going to go into executive session regarding litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, Section 1I. Bob, I'm going to ask, I don't have notes on who we need to have, so staff.
Vigil, Mr. Kraus,
Okay.
and myself.
So Brian Kraus and Deborah Vigil and Bob Sturbank are to remain behind, along with the council. Everyone else gets to go home and enjoy the rest of their evening. Congratulations again to the Citizens Academy graduates, and even more impressed, and thanks for hanging out for all the meeting.
Thank you. It's approximately how many minutes?